am beyond excited to announce that I have partnered with Magimix for Season 8 of Crazy Sexy Food. Magimix is a family-owned business that has the amazing reputation as makers of quality kitchen appliances that are adored by chefs and home cooks alike. I remember growing up and always seeing my mum's beloved Magimix on her countertop and the utter ease of how she used it. With their 30-year motor guarantee, these machines have always been built to last. They continue to be relevant as ever in the busy kitchen and make fantastic food processors that make your food go further and reduce food wastage. They are a godsend when it comes to batch cooking and using up leftovers. I use my Magimix every single day. If you're ready to step into the world of Magimix with a new food processor, blender, ice cream maker, or any other bit of kit, then simply pop over to their website and use my exclusive code at checkout for a 15% discount. The code is MagimixCSF. Make it with Magimix. Hi, and welcome to Crazy Sexy Food. I'm Hannah Harley-Young. This podcast is all about the love of food and how it plays a part in our lives. I sit down with well-known personalities, food experts, chefs, and people who, well, just love their food, to find out all about their life, career, and their favourite tastes along the way. Today I'm joined by comedian and actress Ronni Ancona. She is best known for her time on the BBC's The Big Impression, starring alongside Alistair McGowan, where the show was one of BBC's top-rated comedy programmes, winning numerous awards, including a BAFTA. It saw the pair impersonate some of the most well-known celebrities of our time and put Ronni on the map as one of the UK's biggest talents. During her career, she has starred in countless shows and films, including The Last Tango in Halifax, as well as theatre appearances, accumulating in winning Best Actress at the British Comedy Awards and the prestigious Variety Club Award. From her first Edinburgh Festival appearance in '92, Ronni is a permanent fixture on our screens. My personal favourite of her impressions has to be Olivia Colman, that I was lucky enough to have a private show of at a dinner a couple years ago. Ronni, I'm so excited to have you on. Welcome to Crazy Sexy Food.
Thank you, darling. Oh, thank you for that lovely intro, but you didn't talk about my plumbing career in Grimsby. Just saying.
It's all coming out now.
Oh, yes. Dab hand with a U-bend, and that's not a euphemism.
I've got a few pipes that need cleaning.
Oh, hello. Later.
You can stay on for a drink if you want. We know where this is going to go.
We do.
Before we kickstart, I always ask my guests, what did you have for breakfast this morning? Okay,
now, I actually had a bit of a milky coffee for breakfast. Now, the breakfast, because I'm horribly disorganised and I was running very late. So breakfast fans amongst you, this is not me dissing breakfast per se, because I realise it's so full of potential. Yeah. Chia seeds and the this and the that and the fruit and the yogurt and and all that sort of stuff. It's delicious. But I'm always tend to be flying out, and then I always have a milky coffee, and then I am always oh my gosh, I'm always sort of flicking through biohacking things. Do you know what I mean? And what you should be doing and what you should be doing. Going, oh, I should do that. Mm-hmm. And literally I've got a library full of books all saying exactly the same thing and totally ignore them. And then have sort of, and I've gotten to the state going, oh, was I supposed to have a bulletproof fest coffee? God, yeah. Bulletproof fest coffee, as I call it now. Because I've got, am I supposed to be doing that? Like, you can't even have milk anymore. You can't have milk. You've got to put some turmeric. Even my daughter is making disgusting turmeric. She made herself a turmeric latte the other day. It stained her braces. I mean, we went to the orthodontist last week. Now the Queen. So it's a big, the whole thing, everything's complicated now. But I do quite like a flat white with a bit of, dare I say it, dairy milk. Dairy milk?
Get out of my house immediately.
Wow. Bring back Nigella.
So do you? I mean,
her.
honestly, but do you tend to ever eat breakfast, or is it just something that
I would tend to eat breakfast probably at the weekend more, and when I've got a cracking hangover. So I eat breakfast a lot, basically. So. Yeah. No,
so she eats breakfast every day.
So I do, and I can sit, but I guess I think I associate breakfast with having a bit of time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And having a bit of just time to kind of relax and enjoy it. In which case, I would delight in having the old, full. I quite like the idea. I did quite get into like eggs on avocado, mashed avocado on sourdough. I'm just saying that to give you my credentials.
God, you sound a bit like Nigella, actually.
I'll do Nigella.
I know, I can't wait. We do have lots coming up on this episode, and I'm very, very excited. But what I am really excited about is that you and I are first and foremost friends. And so I am excited to just kind of find out the inner workings of Ronni and your taste buds and everything in between. So before we get started on your incredible career, I want to take it back to your childhood. You were born in Lincolnshire, but raised...
This is a kind of weird one, is that we were on our way to Scotland. This sounds very ominous, but my mum has a lot of Scottish blood, this kind of Scottish, but basically my father was in the Navy and he had a naval posting up in Scotland, and we were going to Scotland, and I was supposed to be born in Scotland, and we were sort of en route. And I got popped out in Louth.
Like literally you were en route.
Popped out, and I was en route, and I was like 2 days in Louth. And now I am born in Louth. If you come from Louth, I've never been. I'm sure it's a delightful place. But, all intents and purposes, grew up in Scotland. Was there since I was like about 2-3 days old. And of course, when you sort of grow up in Scotland, they do delightfully claim you as one of yours. So I ended up sort of saying, so it was kind of weird not being born
So
in
that case, what I really want to know is what life was like growing up. I want to know what you were eating, who was cooking.
It was roast.
I thought it was 1755 actually.
Roast stuffed partridge. My liege, for breakfast. No.
Yes, ma'am.
What was it growing up? Okay, so basically, slightly tragically, my Wikipedia age makes me look even older than I am, if that's possible. How sad is that? But I basically growing up in 1970s, 1980s Scotland, 1970s food. I mean, I do think now a lot of the healthy food that I try and attempt to eat, my body rejects it because it's so used to Heinz numbers. I mean, it was just a different ball game then, a really different ball game, sort of food and everything. And of course, the concept of affluence in those days was so different because the idea of being really wealthy was if you had a swing ball in your garden, and then the idea, and if you were really, really wealthy, you had a soda stream and a swing ball. Wow. I remember someone saying to me, "Oh my God, now have you seen that Alison? She's got a swing ball and she's got a soda stream." And we're like, "She has not." Yes, she has. Get out of here.
Stop.
No. So that was the
I really want a soda stream.
So there was a lot of. I remember this lovely girl at school called Julia, and she was obviously had a wee bit more money than the rest of us, and we knew that because she had white bread sandwiches with the crust cut off in beautiful little triangles, and like seriously, and I'm not just saying this, had a chocolate biscuit or a chocolate bar every day. Now that I know that sounds crazy, but your parents who are great friends of mine, also if you say that to them, they'll go, yeah. I mean, you just didn't see kids sort of sitting there with their own bag of crisps or their own bar. It was a big. I remember this girl going, "She's got a job." She has not. Yes, she has. It's got, it was a big thing, and so it was different. The concept of a treat was different, most definitely.
Because you're from Italian Jewish heritage, which I think is the perfect combination.
Low way back, do you?
Yeah, I just think
for feeling guilty and Scottish or not paying for anything or
everything. And I can say that because I'm half Jewish. But were there many other Italian Jews up in Scotland?
Well, it was a very long way back, so I don't think I was ever. Do you know what I mean? It certainly wasn't the main. I don't think it was a sort of that much of a big thing. I certainly did look a bit different, but the biggest thing for us growing up was that we lived in a town that was very famous for golf, and it had about 17 golf courses, like almost like a golf course per person, per person in the thing. And they were like, and we were the only family who didn't play golf. That was the worst thing. You were really ostracized. Like, keep away from the golfless people. They don't have golf in their lives, And we weren't golfers, which was really by far the worst thing. But Scotland, I had a huge love for Scotland, obviously, but Scotland was very nationalistic in those days, and the worst thing actually, Hannah, wasn't really, I don't think it was, the worst thing was to be English or to have English blood, which I did. That was, really quite significant.
Yeah. And sort of taking it back to the food, was your mum the primary cook?
Yes. Oh, most definitely. And she was, as was a lot of women in those days. I don't think that's, absolutely.
And could you give me some of the key dishes from your childhood?
Well, she was less of a cook she was more of an instinctive cook, and she was a good cook. And interestingly, my poor mother now has dementia and she's in a home, and it's very sad. But before she got really sick, for one birthday and a Christmas, she was a fantastic artist. I mean, she was sort of a professional artist, and she wrote all her recipes down I should have brought it with me to show you, in longhand. Wow. And she'd illustrated with these gorgeous little illustrations. Now, of course, I look at it and I cry because she doesn't remember any of it.
How incredible to have that as well.
Yes.
Oh,
well, interestingly enough, Hannah, I cooked from that the other day for my girls, and I cooked one of the things that I absolutely loved at the time. But of course, I might as well have given them a Fanny Craddock recipe. You forget how food changes with fashion. And this was a delicious dish for me. It was like a prawn curry that my mum made, but it wasn't particularly sort of Indian. Basically, as one of my daughters said, it tastes like hot prawn cocktail, which was served, I think, with an egg. So I think there was 1970s elements when I look back at it.
I'm thinking Abigail's Party all of a sudden. 100%. Love it.
But she did make, but unlike maybe quite a lot of people then, she used a lot of spices and she used a lot of seasoning, and made a fantastic lasagna, and some fantastic sort of chicken dishes and pies, and I don't think, and lovely spaghetti bolognese, and I mean, I don't think, looking back, particularly adventurous, but adventurous for the time.
For the time, I was about to say.
Yes. Yeah.
But in the 70s, my mum always says to me, she's like, pasta was exotic.
I mean, you can't. It's quite extraordinary. And then you think, oh my gosh. But then you realise that's kind of the difference between 1900 and 1940.
Yeah, exactly. No, totally.
I mean, it's a big change.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. I'm going to fast forward a little bit and sort of slowly enter your career. So, because your path was quite interesting, you studied theatre and TV design.
Yeah.
So the performing aspect of it, was this something that perhaps you sort of just saw as a hobby, or was the plan that you wanted to do the design?
Well, no, I always was very obsessed with comedy, and I think that I used comedy a lot as a child. I was a bit of a misfit, and sometimes I was a bit, and I think I used it as a defense mechanism. Horrible cliche clang, but I think that's true. And I think that I probably harbored ideas of doing comedy, but was very shy, actually. Wouldn't say boo to a goose, and and was quite sort of very, very lacking in confidence, which is another aspect of the seven. You know what I mean? If you went to the local comprehensive in the seven, you just didn't have the kind of confidence or panache that you see a lot of people do today at that age. And art was my main subject, my best subject, and such like. But I did do some. Well, actually, when as any of your listeners know, if you go on to do a degree in design or go to art school, I went to St Martin's Central. You basically do a foundation course before.
That's what I did.
You did it. Of course you did. Yeah. Of course you did. So at the foundation course, I remember doing some life drawing classes and being so shy of drawing certain appendages that I would leave a gap between the legs and the legs and the bottom of the body. So there was
way.
Yes. And the art tutor said, you've really got to go and get some extra practice. This is ridiculous. So I found some art, some life drawing classes in the local town to do some extra, which was in York. And I sat down and I was waiting for the model to arrive, and nobody came, and everybody was sitting in a circle. So I presumed that it was a life drawing class, and it turned out it wasn't a life drawing class, but it was a drama. It was an audition for this semi-professional.
You're joking.
I'm not. And I was so shy and embarrassed. I took the book and read for this part and got it. I kid you not.
What are the chances of that?
I know, and I've never got a bloody part so easily since, I should point out. I think I peaked then, Hannah. So that was really, and I did, so that was a kind of semi-professional thing that I did at York. And then when I did do a year of sort of performing arts at University of Kent, Canterbury. But when I went to art school, of course, they used to do these magnificent Christmas shows, because the design, I mean, top design place, amazing. And they were, we had all the industrial engineers doing hydraulics, and we had the fashion designers doing this and that, and the dryer, and the sets looked amazing. Yeah. Nobody wanted to perform. They didn't want, don't stand in front of my set, and I would end up sort of being inadvertently the one that sort of did most of the performing. And then after that, when I did a degree I did education actually, and I became an art design technology teacher. And I basically started working at a very tough inner city comprehensive and started doing stand-up in the clubs. So I just had things thrown at me during the day and
things thrown at you
at night as well.
But where's that jump from coming from like someone who was quite, as you said, unconfident, quite shy, to then going to a stand-up? Because for me, that feels like the pinnacle of confidence.
It wasn't really. What happened was I actually did some drama teaching training when I was training to be a teacher, and I actually started doing this improvisation course because friends were doing it, and got quite into it. And from that, I met someone who wanted a comedian and had a comedy club, and wanted some help with it. And they needed a compere, and I just thought, again, grotesquely naive, I thought, I suppose I could just introduce the acts. And I think I was the worst compere known to man. And in fact, what was really interesting was that I think even Frank Skinner mentioned that gig in his autobiography. I've actually got some of the people that we had on the bill there. I mean, I still remember Joe Brand saying, I can't believe you've just given me £40. You promised 50 in cash. Hurrah. And it was, literally 60 quid on. I mean, I could show you the bills that we had. Me comparing Lee Evans, Jack D,
Wow.
Eddie Izzard,
All
70
the
quid on
greats.
Jack D. I mean, all the greats. Mark Lamar, darling Joe Brand, who I absolutely adore. And they all sort of came down. I mean, and I used to compare, and I didn't have and it was passing trade because it was on it was a boat on the Thames called the Tattershall Castle,
Brilliant.
which I think is revived. And we're passing trade, so nobody really understood you just wouldn't believe. No, worst compare ever.
And then kind of, so sort of from there, you sort of done your improv, you've started doing a bit of stand-up, and I'm sort of dotting around here, but I have sat down with a couple comedians before in the past. Obviously, you're my favourite. And what I always ask them is, as a comedian, how do you know, or when do you realise that you're funny? Or what is it to be funny?
Well, a lot of people would say she still hasn't found out what it's like to be funny. Trust me on that. Oh my God. I think that that's quite a tough question. I mean, I was in a very strange place. I think it was, I couldn't even cope with hecklers at all. I think you can learn to be, I think to a certain extent, like you can learn to be a cook. There will be people who disagree with this. I think you can learn.
I think you can learn to be a cook. 100.
And I think you can learn to be a comedian. I think there's a lot of craft, but then there's having funny bones. And some people have more funny bones than others. I don't know if I ever dawned on me. I knew that I could I never really had areas going, I'm really funny, but I knew I could make people laugh. And I became slightly obsessed with making people laugh. Probably from a horribly neurodiverse place or some galloping ADHD or something.
But it's also like there's different types of comedy as well, isn't there? There's like, and I'm talking completely like I don't know enough about comedy to even agree with what I'm saying, but what I'm trying to get at is that there's that sort of like, you can tell jokes, then there's kind of the comedy that you do, which is whether it's the impersonations or there's dark comedy, there's dry, there's different forms of.
Absolutely, 100%. And when I first started off in the circuit, there weren't many. It wasn't like today, Hannah. There was hardly any women. I mean, I could name all the women.
Ask you.
On 5 hands, and I was really quite esoteric and ethereal and quite weird. So I probably got pushed into a position of probably more attention than I deserved, just because I was kind of a woman, and it was really hard being a woman in those days because there just was not. I think people have decided now women are funny, but in those days in the clubs it was quite hard because I think you stood up as a woman on the stand-up stage, and the audience subconsciously, and even the women in the audience as well, thought, what are you doing? When you stood up, it was so unusual to be a woman on the circuit at that time that, I mean, there were women, but there was just not nearly as many as there are now, which is, it's great that there's so many more now. But you'd stand up on stage, and I think the audience would subconsciously go, what's she doing now? Who is she? Do you know what I mean? What are you doing here? Are you doing a kind of big, are you playing a lesbian aggressive thing? Are you playing do you know what I mean? They needed, whereas a bloke would just stand up as a bit of a neutral facade and could build on that. Yeah. And that's what was tricky.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've had Omid Jalili on, who's obviously
Brilliant.
Hilarious and amazing and brilliant. And he also said, because he was obviously coming from, this Iranian man in this very like white British industry. And he would say that when he was breaking through, the clubs that he was working at, he was their quota, because he was the brown-skinned guy.
Sure.
And it was like, it was either me or a woman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We were the quota.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
I mean, look how far we've come. I mean, you know, still a way to go. And I guess I mentioned it in the intro, and I absolutely want to talk about it because I grew up to The Big Impression. I mean, that
darling,
was the
did
show
you?
that I would sit down weekly, and I just thought it was the most hilarious, brilliant, and clever show that I had
that's so
seen
sweet.
at that time. And I don't know if it was because maybe, aside from the fact that you guys were just hilarious, and I hadn't seen anything like that before in my life, but I think also because I'd come from that world of celebrity with my dad,
Of
to
course.
see these characters,
With Richard,
it was
yeah.
just hilarious. And I'd love to talk to you about the process of that show, but also impersonating someone.
Yes.
That's an interesting conversation for me, because there are a lot of people out there who try to do it. And
Yes.
there's only few, I think, who can really succeed at it.
Well, it's interesting, actually. Bizarrely, I mean, Impressionists, it can be the death knell in a way. I mean, I'm actually very close with all the Impressionists. We all get on really very well. And that's because we're the pariahs of the comedy world. I mean, I always say we're slightly above jugglers and just below ventriloquists on the hierarchical thing. And there's quite a lot of snobbery about it in this country, less so in the States. I think that everybody has a different. I mean, to be honest, Hannah, I was a comedy actress who ended up really, I mean, the first person I ever went on tour with was Rory Bremner, lovely Rory, who I really adore. I started learning up a lot more impressions because I was touring with him. And then I sort of started the show with Alistair. And I think that we were more interested, sometimes with a show, sadly, it's been a bit forgotten, The Big Impression now, because it's not lasting, because, you're very time restricted with impressions, so it will never be a classic. But basically, we were lucky enough to catch the zeitgeist at the time. And the zeitgeist at that time was just on the cusp of celebrity culture.
Yeah.
And I know you know quite a lot about this. So it was obviously pre-social media. But it was just at this time where celebrities were starting to be very young and making a lot of money very young. And that never really happened before because, like people like George Best, even though he was legendary, he would turn up. All right, he might have had a roller, but he would be parked outside his nan's for a cup of tea. And you look at it was a kind of... But then we wanted to make a comment on how this changed. And one of the earliest sketches that we wrote was, Posh and Beck's at the massive table. I don't know if you've ever seen it with the thrones. Yeah. And they wouldn't know what to talk about until they got on talking about their ISAs and their bonds and their, and their things. And then they'd have a word about the food, are these peas still in their pods? These peas are still in their pod. All those sketches. And so we were kind of very interested in that. But what's interesting now, you sometimes think back, that's a pity because we sort of missed that whole social media thing. But what's interesting, you couldn't have done it because now there was still a mystery. So we were on the cusp where these, we're right at the start of kind of Hello Magazine, okay, right at the start of that. And this massive, celebrity going through the roof. But there was still a mystery retained, so you could imagine what these people were saying or doing in their private life. Now you couldn't do that.
You had no insight into what they were doing when the cameras were down. Because they show themselves anyway.
Because they showed themselves anything. And actually, interestingly enough, it was probably the time to do it because now people are a parody of themselves. Yeah. In terms of does that make sense when I say that? You can't. Everything has become such a self-parody that it's very hard to take it further. I mean, with parody and satire, you have to sort of move it somewhere, and and some of the things are just, how do you push some of the they're so ridiculous.
No,
now.
totally. How do you impersonate someone? Like, is it that you actually do have a talent for being, like, I'm talking about literally how you use your mouth, how
you can learn it, Hannah. You can learn it. I mean, and some people, there's a phenomenal impressionist called Lewis MacLeod that I did a big Edinburgh show with a couple of years back, and I can honestly say that he's like this sort of impressionist. You can't even hear his voice behind it. I mean, it's absolutely, he's the main guy on Dead Ringers. He's absolutely extraordinary. And Jan Raven's a good friend of mine. She's lots of phenomenal Deborah. They're all really brilliant, but all of them are going to have a propensity to have a natural voice. So, you tend to fall into doing impressions of people like Audrey Hepburn, my darling angel, because my voice is right at the front of my mouth, and so is hers. Of course, you can't believe it. Nobody knows how Audrey sounds anymore. They've all got a poster on their wall, but they don't know how she sounds like. So you can do. Everybody's got a propensity.
So naturally comes out of your mouth, and I'm just like, talk to me like that for the rest of the session.
But then there is a way, and most impressionists will sort of approach it in a different way. But there are certain things that you would find. So you would find a kind of an attitude where the noise, you'd break it down. You know, where is the noise coming from in their head? Where is it from the? What are they doing with their mouth? Don't sort of, Jennifer Saunders. Don't touch the open my mouth. Don't touch it. Just not opening my mouth. Don't. I'm not. So
do you know what's going to be amazing? Out of all of these episodes on this season, it's going to be amazing for people who are listening to it, because, I mean, obviously it's great to see you as well. You're beautiful. But do you know what I mean? It's like people are going to be listening to me like, wait, Jennifer's just walked into the house.
So you just, there's attitude about it.
Yeah.
So you'd look for where the voice is coming. Obviously you've got accent and dialect that comes into it. And then there's a kind of attitude, sort of, what are they doing? What's their emotional response? Like Lorraine Kelly sounds very, very cozy, but is with an age, hello, welcome back. If you've just joined us, you've missed nothing. No. Yes. Cozy. Not that cozy, but cozy. She's a very good journalist, actually. So she's there's all sorts of
it's all the different parts. And so are you actually studying these people? I mean,
you did have to study them for ages and ages, and then some people you can't get. I remember doing Big Impression. Oh my God, what a disaster. And Alistair was absolutely phenomenal at doing Richard Madeley. I mean, it was just like, everybody's got their top voice, and it was just extraordinary. And he was just brilliant, and I just couldn't get Judy Finnegan right. I mean, I did an approximation, I tried to get the thing, and of course every time there was a clip, because it was bloody hell, like, no!
Yeah.
And then, it's interesting. And it helps if you like them, I mean, it helps if when we first started out, actually, they'd never seen anything like this before.
I was going to say.
Because nobody had really put impressions and sketches before. And so there was a kind of real, a lot of people were very kind of horrified and very against it, and then it started to do really well, and we'd be sent loads of tapes and people would want us to do them.
But that was going to be my next question, was there much backlash, and has anyone ever been offended?
Do you know, strangely enough, I think the men were more offended than the women.
Really? That's
interesting. Yeah, there was a couple of men I don't think it was offended as such. I think there was somebody that was a bit offended, but I don't think they were offended as such. I think what it was that they were reminded of things that they did that they didn't really know that they did, and that made them self-conscious.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It hit something on them that made them vulnerable.
You would sort of pick something up and you'd go. But actually, interesting enough, looking back, we were never cool, even when we were cool, me and Alistair. We were never hot, even when we were hot. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well,
and because we were a BBC One, there's a terrible snobbery in comedy, and everybody thinks, it's got to be really kind of, you know what I mean, for something to be good. In those days, it had to be on Channel 4. It had to be kind of, you know, alternative. It had to be... And as a consequence, we were allowed, you would never get away with it now, but we were allowed to get away with murder. So we did some sketches that kind of slipped through the net because they were all like, it's mainstream. Yeah. And actually, interesting, some of these things have kind of reared their head and we've got slightly into trouble about it. For example, we always thought that Jimmy Savile was an absolute perverted creep, and we couldn't get it out of our head. This is before it made public. So we did a spoof of the song Stan. Do you remember Eminem?
Yeah.
And you know when he's writing letters, do you remember the famous video?
Yeah.
And we had, you know, Jimmy Savile, this nasty little Jimmy Savile writing inappropriate letters and with the rain coming down and the thing, because we thought, well, this came surface somewhere and someone accused us of being really... But what they didn't know was we did it years before.
Oh, wow.
And interestingly enough, I remember we did a sketch when Ruby Wax, who I adore. I think she's literally one of the funniest women ever. And interesting, that attitude, you know, the producer said, you should do Ruby Wax because she's really annoying. I said, she's not really annoying. She's really funny and she's really witty. And you wouldn't say that if she was a man. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Because she was remarkable. And she was so great, and I loved her so much. And she's the funniest woman ever, and I'm so honored to know her. I'm not sure she likes me doing impressions, but Ruby, forgive me. It comes from a place of love. Ruby was the funniest chat show host, and did these really extraordinary, pertinent, amazing interviews. And then suddenly, Louis Theroux came along, and she sort of let go. Do you know what I mean? They go, we've got Louis Theroux and poor Ruby. And I was like, so I just thought, this is outrageous. So we did it. I mean, I like Louis Theroux, but, you know, we did a sketch when Louis meets Ruby and they were kind of circling each other.
I've actually seen, that is so funny, that sketch.
So you just, you know, so I think, and then years later, I remember I listened to Ruby talking to Louis recently on, she did one of his episodes on the podcast, and she said to him, I didn't, for a long time, you know, you were my bête noire, and I couldn't think. And it's funny, I think some of the things that we slightly preempted.
The funny story with Ruby Wax is that you once pretended to be her on the phone to her son. Is this the story?
It is a very long time ago, and I think her lovely boy was away travelling. And he phoned up, and I think I took the phone and went, you have to come home. We've got no money. Come home. I mean, Mum. I can't remember, but there was some sort of...
So brilliant.
Oh, she's wonderful. Love Ruby.
This is obviously a food podcast.
Yes.
Can you impersonate any well-known cooks or chefs out there?
Well, my big thing I used to impersonate was Nigella. Now, I love the way everything is even breakfast. I love bread. It's so primal. It's the essence of life itself. And when it's cooked, it's called toast. I mean, loved her. Loved Nigella.
Oh, I can't. I'd love you to talk to me like that.
But I used to love Nigella. And I used to do these sketches with her, you know, in my larder, you know, we'd have the most llama chips. I used to make up with frozen llama. So handy. Anyway. Dear, oh dear. I haven't done her for a long time.
Honestly, Ronni, you're so talented. It's just
it's
amazing.
Not desperately useful.
It is useful. You could get away with anything. I absolutely love it. I want to bring it to present day because you're working on some incredibly exciting projects.
Yes,
in recent years, started a production company called Captain Dolly with fellow actress and comedian Sally Phillips, who we also love, another national treasure.
We love. Do you know what? Sally and I did a gig the other night, big corporate gig, and they're very difficult corporate gigs.
Yeah.
You're basically lots of drunk businessmen or business ladies.
Yeah.
But we just started sort of riffing on the fact that she started saying, "Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, that I was a poor man's Claudia Winkleman, the one that had been stretched and dunked in up and down in a vat of bleach." And I said, "And imagine that imagine Tess Daly had never taken a vitamin in her life." And that you're watching on screen with the aspect ratio.
Oh my God, brilliant.
Like a kind of Tesco daily. Yeah. So that's what we sort of riffing on at the moment when we do gigs together. We did a film together, and this film, we sort of got involved in rewriting a script for the executive producers, and we did, and they had a distribution company, a film distribution company, which they were expanding, and they asked us to head up, and then they were developing into ADR for those who are interested. That's re-recording dialogue and all post-production things, and they were branching out in that, and they wanted us to head up the production arm, and it's sort of grown and grown and grown. And now we've got studios. So all of these little companies, they all do their thing. We all vertically integrated.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Did you hear that?
Wow.
Oh yeah, baby. And we work across each other, but we're like a little Ealing. I think your lovely listeners might be too young to remember that, but it's like a sort of mini studio from start to beginning. Okay. So where we're sort of producing and writing, and lots of very well-known people have come to us. It's a kind of talent-led thing where you can, a lot of talent can realise there and taken by the hand.
You very kindly sent me over a really fabulous sort of document that sort of explains it.
Grown now.
It's just incredible. But is there any of the projects that you're allowed to talk about now?
Yes, we are doing a film called Classic, which is a film that is sort of written by wonderful Tony Pitts, who's very clever, and it's about the disparate sort of, is a bit like a vehicle, a car version of Best in Show. We should be so lucky, hope so. But it's about the disparate couples who kind of go to car rallies, and and that's got a wealth of comedic talent in it and some big names.
And
so we're doing
are you
that.
Getting involved in these as well?
Well, I am not
acting or
not
capacity?
Always, but I am in this one,
okay,
which is quite nice and lovely. But I wouldn't ever. And then we're doing another film that's very exciting, that is actually written by that's set in Italy, about a progressive rock band that's doing really well. And we've got another couple of films going, and the plumbing work as well. No, we've got about 3 or 4 films. 5 films on the slate at the moment. Very busy.
Yeah.
And some TV stuff as well.
Okay. I just want to bring it back to the food for a bit.
Yes.
I want to know, I always ask all performers this, what is the food like on set? And where has been the best catering? Okay.
Well, I think the problem is the really good film, the really good catering is on the big studio pictures. And tragically, I've done a couple of Hollywood films, but I haven't done lots of major. But that's where you're going to get the yummy, fresh, carpaccio, soup, all that sort of stuff. You know, that's where that's all going to be. As you go down the food chain, did you see what I did that?
I like that.
Did you see
I
that?
like
As you
that.
slip down the showbiz food chain and get to my level, where you're usually playing a drunk, delinquent, mentally disturbed woman, I usually turn up in something, ruin someone's life, and leave. The catering is probably less.
What is it, like a Mars bar?
But you can get some lovely catering. And the thing about catering is, for some reason, and I know it will be very different on a big studio picture, because the irony is that there's all this gorgeous food and then nobody's really allowed to eat anything. But the wonderful thing about catering, for me, I have a total different rule when I'm catering. For some reason, I am allowed to eat a massive, I don't even eat bacon normally, but I'm allowed to have a bacon.
So like
large.
life doesn't really exist.
Some
It's a
sort
whole
of,
different...
No, it's a whole different rule. Suddenly... Yes, 3/4. Of course. Pudding? What? Yes. Why? And you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You would never do that normally. It's
I'm
got
like
a
that
different...
when I'm at like
it's
a photo
different,
shoot. It's
and
really
then you get
weird.
starving. And then you're like, so it's very different, I think. Very different.
And what is on Ronnie's rider? Or what used to be on your rider?
Well, that is hysterical. That even the concept that I could ask for a rider, a chair.
A chair.
Can I? Somewhere I can sit. I don't think I have ever reached the lofty heights to ask for a ride. I think I've done some very big stand-up things, and what would I ask for? I was again. This is something where it's amazing, where you can put away Haribo like there's no tomorrow and things like that. But I have to say, I'm not very good. If I'm going to go on stage and do a big gig, I find it hard to eat. Yeah. Because that's some people can eat better, but I find that a bit tricky, really.
No, I would be totally the same. Are you a cook, first and foremost? Do you cook at home?
Oh, yes, I do cook at home. I think, do you know what? I think I'm better than I am.
Okay.
And also, I'm a bit of a con woman, so I can make it look as if I'm better. And also, I get I put so much effort into that. I've noticed, dear listeners, that there's a book of the wonderful Ottolenghi on your table. Now, I, like many people, am absolutely obsessed with him. However, I hate him at the same time. And the reason I say that is because, just for someone as disorganized as me, just as I think I will cook whole dinner parties just using his books, and just as I'm getting a handle of things, he plucks out an ingredient. I'm like, oh no, what? What? But then I love him because I can throw on all these pomegranate seeds
and
parsley, and everybody goes, ooh.
So true. Do you know what? Pomegranate seeds and pistachio nuts.
Yeah. Oh,
literally.
The multitude.
There could be nothing under. There could be cardboard underneath it, and it will still look beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I basically. I do adore him. Although I remember going into his shop, if I'm allowed to say this, in Notting Hill. I'm sure it's got nothing to do with it. And slightly terrified by a very scary serving person, and asked for some wild rice salad, and they put it on the scales and the price was so much. I ended up saying, oh, actually I'm not that hungry. Can you just and walked off with 1 grain of rice.
How much did the one grain cost you?
I don't even want to talk about it, as I was kind of sweaty. I was a bit hot around the...
I'm not going to lie, we have all been there.
We've all been there.
And it's that awkward moment and you're like, actually, would you just take a little bit out?
A little bit out, because
the whole thing.
Dear God, yes. So
aside from Yotam's delicious recipes, what are your specialities at home? Like, what would I find you cooking on a Friday night?
Okay, so my youngest daughter is now vegetarian, which is what I used to be veggie for years, actually. And so I'm starting to do a lot more veggie dishes, actually. And I used to do I love doing like a Spanish chicken and chickpea chorizo stew or something like that. I do quite a lot of seafoody things. I quite like, this sounds very dull, but I do quite a mean spag bol.
Oh,
Is that,
no,
come on.
spaghetti bolognese is not dull at all.
Oh man! But I do it with a
I love
sofrito.
comfort food.
I do it with
yes.
a sofrito and a bit of
Yes.
and all that.
Oh God, we all need to go over to Ronnie's for dinner. Bloody hell.
And then I do, and then I sort of tend to do some. And then I mean, literally, I go to the go-to. So I almost if I have a dinner party, I'm sort of cooking this, and I literally like have friends going, "Oh, this one again, lovely." No, I love it. And Ottie's to blame.
Yeah, had it 5 times, but it is what it is.
Is it Ottie's Marbella chicken? That's wrong.
Yeah.
Is it
it's Marbella chicken.
It's not is it Marbella?
It is Marbella chicken.
It sounds like it's got a
How many
pina
times have
colada.
you made it?
Oh, I don't. Honestly, Hannah, I don't want to.
It's called Ronnie's chicken now.
It's Ronnie's chicken. I'm going to sue him for.
What food do you dislike?
Oh, okay. Yes, I have something for you. I think I know my favourite food ever.
We're going to come to that in a bit.
My hated food, which I just don't understand, are sprouts. I think they are the grapes of the devil.
I love a Brussels
Hannah,
sprout.
we were so close.
Oh, Ronnie.
No, they've got an evil yellow heart. An evil yellow heart.
Do you
which
like
can imagine.
cabbage?
Okay, that's okay. Okay, I know what you're going to say to me. If I had a skilled cook like yourself,
What about
slicing them
Ottolenghi
up with
sprouts?
some chestnuts and some pancetta and some, do you know what I mean? Like a lightly thing. Yes, I get you. As long as they don't have the evil yellow heart. And because I'm how many years older than you, dear God?
About 3.
I think the evil yellow heart is something that's come from my generation, which your generation wouldn't tolerate, and good for you. The other thing is grapefruit. Now, I don't know why it's the... if it was a colour, it would be dark blue. I actually like dark blue as a colour, but I find grapefruit... For some reason, I find the aftertaste. I can't do the
bitterness.
But after having watched Celebrity Get Me Out of Here and what they're drinking and eating, give me a grapefruit anytime.
And a Brussels sprout.
And a Brussels sprout, because I could drink that liquidized. Have you been watching that?
I've seen it over the years.
I'm slightly... I've been asked to do it many times.
Well, I was going to say...
No, I couldn't.
Can I just say...
I couldn't do that.
Because I honestly think someone like you would be the most profound contestant, and I feel like that show needs someone like you.
No, but I think it could... My children started saying initially, oh, you should do it, you should do it, you should do it. And now they've changed their mind.
Is it because of the eating Bush Tucker
Well,
trial?
I think they probably find that I could... I actually think it's the sort of thing that I would be voted off first.
No, I disagree.
Yeah.
I disagree.
And
I'm going to start putting you forward again.
Quite not, and maybe a bit too. And I don't know how I could cope with liquidized spiders, really.
Weirdly enough, I think I'd be okay with the eating trial if I just close my eyes.
Did you see the drinking one?
No, but my issue would be being around anything with my head in like a big globe of cockroaches.
Yes.
That I'm not
Actually,
okay
the
with.
claustrophobia as well.
That is just too... I can't do it.
Yes.
I'll have terrible trauma for the rest of my life.
Yes.
I can't bear it.
So we're out of that.
Yeah,
one.
so we're both not putting ourselves forward anymore. Okay, we're done. That was a very short-lived idea.
Yeah.
What 3 items are always in your fridge?
Not that I can always afford it, but I think I'd always have a bit of smoked salmon.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, a bit of smoked salmon, because I would either sort of... sometimes I would make like maybe with a pasta for the girls and put a bit of smoked salmon in with a bit of cream cheese, almost like a carbonara version of that. And or to make a bagel or a bit of the kids like sort of cream cheese bagels with, smoked salmon sometimes, or to with a salad or something. I love a chutney.
I love a chutney.
I love a chutney. My girls love, they used to mix actually mayonnaise together with, or like, mayonnaise with tomato sauce and call it bean sauce. Don't ask me why. And now
That's
they've
like,
brought that out. Heinz have brought that out.
Have they?
Yes, they've brought
But that's
mayonnaise.
just what you
and
do
tomato-
when you're eating chips, right?
But that's, yeah. They've brought that out. They've mixed it together, which is, I'm interested to know. That's a bit like Thousand Island dressing.
Yeah,
What is the difference? I'm not sure.
I don't want to know. Probably a few other E numbers. I don't know.
Probably,
Yeah.
indeed. I tend to have loads of, oh God, Hannah, I get very excited. I get loads of stuff. I put it in the fridge. I go, I have to have rose harissa, or I have to have this or that. And then a year and a half later, and I'm like, oh my God, can I use this? Can't I?
Do you know what? I have been known to use quite a lot of things that are out of date.
I do. I'm old school.
If there's no mould growing in it, it's fine.
No. And even my
Even
husband,
if
there is mould, he prefers it.
Yeah.
I mean, God. What's always in your fridge?
Oh, no one's asked me that. Always a hot sauce. Always, because I love spicy food.
Yes, I'd have a hot sauce.
Always some type of cheese.
Me too. And
Always.
Always some type of cheese.
Because
I would have,
I'm that person that will just, if I'm a bit nibbly, I'll just take whatever's out, cut a little corner off it, nibble it.
Yeah.
Cheese will get you out of loads of issues.
Yeah.
Hot sauce will get you out of some terrible situations. And I would say my third one would be, it's a difficult one because there's a lot of things I have in my kitchen that I don't keep in the fridge, like tomatoes or eggs, or I know there's a big conversation about, do you keep eggs in the fridge? I personally don't. My husband wants to. It's still a battle.
You're so far more sophisticated than I am. I mean,
it's meant to keep the shelf
husband,
life.
he'll put things back in the cupboard that's opened a jar because he's old school, and I'm like, and of course it goes, and you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah. We'll have those conversations.
Don't we?
When you do find yourself out and about, where are some of your favourite restaurants?
Well, do you know what? I'm not trying to get out of it, but I think it depends what I fancy. I quite like that restaurant, Portobello Pizzeria.
Oh, they do. I love that place. I haven't been there in so long.
They do fantastic fish and seafood pasta.
Yeah.
I mean, the portions are shrinking a bit, but I do love it there. And
You're so a woman after my own heart.
And
I go by things like that.
And then there's, I think there's, there's some gorgeous places. There's a fantastic little Thai restaurant down the Uxbridge Road called Earth, and is it Boost?
Oh my God, Earth and Q.
Yes,
that's literally around the corner. How do you know about that place?
Yes, that's a lovely little.
It's regarded as one of the best in London.
So authentic and gorgeous,
like very authentic, but I can take heat, but that place is spicy.
Yes.
But it's great and it's family run, which I like.
There are some amazing little places. There's a place out in Oxfordshire that in a little a village called Ensham that's no big shakes, but there's a fantastic curry house that just cooks. But there's all sorts of places, and it depends on what I'm into.
I get that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Right, I finished my conversations with a few quickfire questions that are the most unquickfire questions you can get.
Phil Howard as a chef, by the way.
Oh, yes.
I went to university with him, actually.
Did you?
He could only heat beans up when he started, and now look at him.
He's come so far.
He's come so far. Yes.
Okay, what is the craziest food you've ever eaten?
Okay, craziest food I've ever eaten was when I was little, and my mum said to me that she was going to some lunch. It was some strange fusty woman who said, in those days you've got to eat everything that's on your plate, and you must do it. And this woman, I kid you not, had made hot bananas wrapped in ham, covered in cheese sauce. And I was made, she said, every time I tried to go, Mum, she went, shh. And I mean, it's an I'm a celebrity, get me out of there moment. I think that's pretty crazy.
So you had to eat the whole thing?
I think I ate the whole thing.
What a bizarre combination.
I know. Again, very 1970s.
I was going to say that. No, that doesn't sit very well with me. You poor thing.
No. I mean, it is extraordinary. I know, sorry, this is digression. I found an old Fanny Craddock book in a junk shop. And, she'd have an annual. And if you look at it, some of the garnishing, there was a roast chicken on top of a mound of green green mashed potatoes, and she would, and there'd be things like pigeon vol au vents, and they'd be garnished with pigeon wings.
Oh,
I mean,
stop.
it
was of the time. It was of the
time.
time.
Yes, I think that's pretty crazy.
That is pretty. You must have PTSD from that.
I remember my best meal I've ever had. I could tell you that.
Well, that is the next question.
Is it?
What's your most memorable meal?
Okay, this is my most memorable meal. My great friend Jackie, Irish girl, great laugh. We went to Zanzibar once, and we were and someone who is from Zanzibar told us to go to this place to eat a crab curry. He said, you've got to go to this place. And we went through all these tiny little streets in Stone Town, Zanzibar, and there was a tiny little shack. I mean, like a tiny, little room with plastic chairs and a couple of plastic tables, and very, very basic. And we said to them, oh, we've come for the crab curry. And they shook their heads and said, we're so sorry, but the moon wasn't right tonight, and they haven't come up on the thing, so we can give you no crab curries. I mean, it was really, really extraordinary, very basic place. So we went up the coast, and they said, you come back in 2 weeks and the moon will be right and we will make you crab curry. So we went up the coast, and then we forgot all about it. And on that day, I suddenly thought, well, we should go back. And my friends were going, oh, don't be ridiculous, they won't remember us, and because they'd said to us, the restaurant will be closed, but we'll make it for you. She said, don't be ridiculous, they won't be open. And I said, I think we should go, it's only good manners, because we said we'd come at 6, and there was rain, was just downpour, the rain like just rain down there. And we got back to Stone Town in front of this little kind of shack, which was all closed up, and the rain. And my friends go, what on earth are we doing here? And we looked down the hill, and there was this beautiful woman coming up, all covered. And she had a basket of crabs.
Oh my gosh.
And they'd opened this restaurant up. They'd kept their word, and they cooked us this crab curry. Sorry, I've been a veggie for a long time. Apologies for anyone who's upset by crabs. Because they cooked this crab curry, and the rain was dripping through, and just the two of us ate this
magical
crab thing, and I will never forget that.
Did it beyond?
Oh, beyond. And I've eaten, and I've had the honour of eating some really good food.
I mean, I'm even sort of I can imagining the taste
and the atmosphere, and there's just one person
everything,
on this tiny little formica table with the rain coming through, and
very romantic.
Very romantic.
Yeah. Okay. What a beautiful memory.
Thank you, darling.
Okay. The most important question you're going to get asked today is, and the backstory is, my favourite snack of all time is a packet of crisps. Oh. What is your favourite flavour of crisps and why?
I'm so pleased you've brought this up, Hannah, because we're very similar. And my God, I love a crisp.
Ooh, and what's your flavour though?
Oh God, this is so difficult. I think, when everything falls apart in this country, we've still got our crisp flavours. Yes. That's about all we've got, but we've got crisp flavours, haven't we? God damn. Okay. I'm going to say I love salt and vinegar.
Yes.
And I'm going to say prawn cocktail.
No.
Oh God, damn.
No.
Salt
that's
and vinegar.
That's
Wrong
not
answer.
You didn't say prawn cocktail.
For those of you who are not watching, I've been literally ousted from the house.
She's going all about
maybe not prawn cocktail.
No, stick with the first answer.
Salt and vinegar. Salt and vinegar.
But are we talking like a salt and vinegar Walker's or like a thicker kettle chip?
Oh God, now they've come out. I do quite like a thicker one.
I know, yeah.
Because the
I just prefer. I prefer it's a stronger taste.
It's a stronger taste, and it sits better. What else would I like? Okay, I'm going to get. It sounds a bit wanky, but That's do fine. Quite like some of the kind of. I like some of the new kind of more. Chili type.
Yeah. Like a Sensations, like a Walker's Sensations.
Yeah,
sweet chili.
Maybe, yes, a sweet chili, something like that. What are your favourite?
They're sitting behind me on the cake stand.
Oh my God, it's Monster Munch. Oh my God, I love a pickled onion Monster Munch. Are you going to break one open for me?
Do you want one?
Yeah, bloody do. Oh my God. For those who are not watching this, Hannah there's a padlock on
Yeah, there is a padlock.
There's a padlock. It's been sealed shut. There's I think you've got to answer questions.
Yeah, you got to get to the end of the
It's
chat.
like some Game of Thrones things before you get oh my God, a monster munch.
They're the best.
No, damn. God
They
damn.
are the best.
God
Great
damn.
on a hangover.
Do you like a cheesy what's it?
Love a cheesy what's it.
No, they are.
Love a cheesy what's it.
They are seriously addictive.
But the packets aren't big enough.
No, they are not. They are not.
I love asking this question to people.
I
Honestly,
know.
because you could talk about it for hours.
Yeah, you could.
On to the next one, however. And we are then going to open up the
I would
Monster
like
Munch.
to say, if you told me that I was allowed to gravitate from that question into beyond crisps, I would have done but you gave me a bum steer by saying crisps.
Yeah.
I was being,
Polite.
well, no, I was being truthful when I was saying crisps.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yes.
Oh, you're trying to do it like a
Yes.
no crisp. Well, I think no, they're
okay.
They're made of
Okay.
maize and
All right.
E numbers, but they're still a crisp.
Yes.
Okay. What food sums up happiness for you?
Oh my God. I mean, just imagine, if you will, some seafood, serious seafood, creamy crepe seafood pasta.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Beautiful.
I mean, even like I sang Jacques, what do you call them? Something to do with.
Yeah. No, just a seafood
Or
linguine.
even like a seafood linguine, or even like a lovely seafood stew,
Yeah.
even like a Moroccan seafood, something like
Yes, yeah.
that.
Yeah, I take that answer. Okay.
Thank you, yes.
Final question.
Yes.
Live to eat or eat to live?
Has to be eat to live, right?
Really?
No, I mean live to eat. Oh my God, I got that wrong.
There's no right or wrong.
No,
There's no right or
live
wrong.
to eat.
Live to eat.
Live to eat.
Yeah.
Live to eat.
You're
Oh my
Jewish
God.
and Italian.
No, live to eat, live to eat, live to eat, live to eat, 100%.
Oh, Ronni, this was honestly so much fun for me. I think you're an absolute delight. I think you're a national treasure,
Oh,
whether
bless
you
you.
believe it or not. Can you, as a favour, sign us out as Nigella?
Yes. I love Hannah Young, and I love the way that she's so pertinent and has such extraordinary high-class food choices. I mean, pickled monster munch. I mean, what else is there? I'm horrified that I haven't actually been asked to do crazy, sexy food. And I can't believe that I haven't been asked to do it and that I haven't been on it. And terribly jealous. But until next time.
That was brilliant. Thank you for listening. If you love what you hear, please subscribe and review. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram @CrazySexyFood and check out the Crazy Sexy Food YouTube channel. Until next time, bye.